to a brand new style of video here on the Gray8Builds YouTube channel. This will be my first of the mock review series, where I take a look at some of my own personal builds that I've worked hard on and would like to share with you guys to inspire you to build your own things. To kick off this event, I'm going to be showcasing the chicken coop mock that I made for the Yorktown Grange Fair. If you're unfamiliar with this, the Yorktown Grange Fair gives out ribbons to Lego sets in a competition each year for the Yorktown Grange. We're always looking for more people to join into this, so if you live in the Westchester County area and you love building with Legos, why not give it a try? There's no limit to what you need to do. The only rules are you can't use a set. I will leave a website link in the pinned comment below so that you can easily find out when the next fair is so that you can log in your own builds. You can see that this model actually won Best of Show. No surprise there, considering I have had a lot of experience building different builds, and I chose a farm-themed build which would obviously catch the eye of any judge at a fair. Now, let's take a closer look at the build here. From the beginning, you can see that there's a lot of chickens. Hence the reason why this Minifigure Thursdays this week was taken over by, yes, I really need all these chickens. So, go check that out if you haven't seen it already, and more details about these beautiful little creatures. You can also see there are some other creatures featured throughout this. On the tree here, you can see there's some blue birds, a black and a reddish-brown squirrel, and you can find a bird on the lamp over here. Finally, there is something that you can view from the other side of this build, just by turning it a bit, and that's that there's a cat walking along the fence. This is meant to represent a barn cat because, as you may know, they're used to help catch all the rodents and keep the farm safe. So it's great that I included all these animals here, and you could probably add more of these if you had the time and money to go and purchase more, but I was trying to make this work with the pieces that I had in my collection already as a challenge to not have to spend extra on this build. So, you can see that I just removed the tractor from this build. We'll take a look at that in a minute, but you can see I used some dark brown pieces to represent the aesthetic of dirt tracks left by the tractor as it rolls through. That same color is also used here in the other corner, which is used for the dust bathing pit. If you don't know already, chickens like to dust bathe to clean themselves. It's similar to people taking a shower. So I wanted to include at least some sort of message that chickens in this coop could also dust bathe. You can see there's a lot of chickens in the middle. They're actually hunting around a food dish with a female farmer, giving them some tasty chicken treats, which I can leave that up to your imagination, but I originally imagined it to be chicken feed that you could buy at the store. The minifigure is also carrying a basket, which we'll look at later, that has more of those treats in it. You can also see that there's a ramp going up to the coop that's actually mounted on a 2x6 clear plate, which makes it look sturdy, but at the same time gives it the effect of it feeling thin and not really being that fragile of a build. Now let's take a look at the inside, because this is where things really get complicated in terms of what I did with this set. I did kind of give people at the fair a little something to do here, and as you can see, inside the coop, we have a golden chicken in the nesting box area, which is to the far right of the coop. You can also see there's a chicken up on the top, which is just a perch that I've made out of 1x1 bricks stacked sideways, and it's loosely mounted in there, so it's not necessarily best for sturdier play, but it is really cool, and it makes the coop feel more complete. Additionally, that waterer is probably one of my favorite things I did for this coop, because this waterer is almost 100% accurate to all the waterers actual chicken coops will have most of the time, and it's a great way to include something to make this feel more realistic. Additionally, you can see that there's this little brown chicken weather vane type statue at the top. We'll take a closer look at that when we look at the minifigures, but this is on a roof that is detachable, so if you want to see the chickens inside the coop, you have room to do that now. As I mentioned earlier, on the side here, there's a little lantern. It's using a illegal Lego building technique, meaning that the Lego group will never use it, but I used it here because it works fine. It's a Technic piece slid in the bottom of a 1x1 round cylinder brick. This is in trans yellow, And when you put two 2x2 cylinder plates on it, you can kind of get the effect of a lantern, which is pretty cool. I have it hooked into the wall on a stud plugged face into a Technic brick, which is also used for holding the perch up. The last thing I want to point out here with this coop is the amount of foliage that I put in here. I wanted this to make it feel like it was a backyard chicken coop, not one of those commercial chicken coops. So you can see that there's a lot of flowers planted around here. And especially towards the back, you can see there's even a rabbit in there that you can see there's a lot of different types of flowers, and it adds to the livelihood of this. There's also some green weeds along the roadside, which is also a nice detail, and it allows the cat to kind of hide within it. Now let's take a look at the tractor for this build, and then I'll review the minifigure / buildable figure that I've included for this set. And I will conclude the review with some comments on how you can improve your builds using some of these techniques. So here's the tractor I designed. Let's just say that this tractor was meant to be a very, very simple build. It rolls very well, but I wanted it to look like some of the older Ford tractors. So the front has the old Lego car piece, which I wish I didn't have in the old gray, and instead I had to go with that. It would be nice to have it in a new gray, but I don't think they make this piece anymore. You can see that there's also a bit of exhaust pipe build coming off the front side of the tractor, and the back wheels are actually built with multiple Technic pieces layered around each other, so it makes it look like it's one wheel, but in reality it's a disc, a Technic wheel, along with a Technic tire. And that's pretty much it for the front of the tractor. You can also see towards the area where the minifigure sits, there's also a very nice build. It's not the standard Lego steering wheel. I decided to go a little bit more detailed. And on the other side of this, you can see that there's also a lever which could probably be used to attach and detach vehicles. Now then, let's detach the wagon for a second here, because there's something else in here that I did that I think is probably really realistic. I tried to add a 3-point hitch, and after trying to do a couple of different styles, I settled on this one, using some smaller pieces that were able to insert bars into them. Now, this just gives off the illusion of a 3-point hitch. It doesn't actually work like one. As you can see, there's actually a core hitch piece in the bottom of that, and that's how the trailer connects. You can also see I left room with 2 cylinders to represent where lights would have been, but since I wanted this to be an antique tractor, I didn't want to put the lights on the tractor. I felt like it would take away from the antique aesthetic. Now, moving on with the trailer, if we reconnect it, you can see this trailer matches the color scheme of the tractor, but has a crate containing 6 ice cream pieces, which I'm using in this set as bunches of eggs, which is kind of a creative use if you want to try and do that yourself. Now, you can see that the edge of the tractor is kind of bulging out at the back, representing the fact that this is an overloaded amount of eggs inside this one wagon. And likely, you might want to build a bigger trailer, but I think this fits for the size of the display, and it adds to the character of the overall build. Now let's move on to the minifigures I've included with this. All of these minifigures are custom built, but may be loosely inspired off of some minifigures from other sets. First we have the main farmer, who's driving the tractor. He has olive green pants with pocket prints, a dark red jacket, and a nice tan hat. I give him a very generic face because I wanted anyone to feel like they could insert themselves into this build instead of it being particularly for one person in particular. So I kind of gave that as an option, and it works because there would be no reason to put a back face print on this. The back torso print is pretty good, and it matches the front torso print quite well. The second of the 2 minifigures is the female farmhand, and she uses mostly pieces from the LEGO minifigure series Dog Park Trainer, using the same legs that were dual molded and the same main torso piece. However, I exchanged the arms to be just plain yellow to represent having rolled up sleeves like you're actually on the job. I also used a generic female face to make it look like you could insert yourself into this set if you wanted to, which I think is cool. And the hat is different from the one from the minifigures pack because it uses just dark blue for the hat and a reddish-brown ponytail. Now, you can see that she's holding a 1x1 stud, and there's a basket filled with these. These were the feed things I was mentioning earlier. Now, it's not necessarily the most accurate description, but when trying to work with Legos, I try to make use of pieces that seem too common for other uses. So using 1x1 round studs for this works perfectly. Overall, I think this minifigure is a great addition, and I just wanted to make sure that there was more than one farmhand for this task, considering that's a lot of chickens in there. The final thing I'm going to be looking at is this. This is the weather vane that's on top, and it's designed based off of the original buildable chickens seen in themes like Lego Castle and other themes that had chickens before the original mold of the chicken was created. However, it's been updated with some pieces that didn't exist back then, including the feet, as well as a piece that's keeping the tail with this top part up. Now, I used all brown for this to represent wood, so it's not meant to be an actual chicken, but I think it is really cool that it's included here because it's another great thing to have that makes it feel more like a backyard chicken coop than an industrial one. Alrighty, and that would be the entire review of this set. However, there's one more thing I'd like to do for this review that I will do for all future mock reviews. I want to make sure that I'm teaching people the building techniques I've used and some of the highlights of what I think would make builds look good. So, I'm going to go over some of those right now. The first thing was quite obvious when I mentioned it. The foliage is excessive. The amount of details in the trunk and the tree give it a very natural flow, and that's just using a lot of sloped pieces and different placement of pieces in the same color, as well as mixing the smaller leaf elements with larger leaf elements, which I think is a pretty cool technique. Some other techniques was I wanted to make the tractor look like it fit, so what I did was I just used the 1x2 plates with handlebar attachments, and those just make the build look a little bit more detailed from an angle at the top, which I didn't necessarily want to do at first, but it turns out okay in the end, and I'm impressed with it. Finally, I wanted to point out something that I do that a lot of LEGO sets also do, and this is kind of controversial. Some people like it, some people don't. And that's the fact that I left the interior to this coop open. Now, most buildings in LEGO sets are left open, and that's not necessarily something that not everybody would enjoy having. Some people like to have a building that looks good from all the way around. But in the terms of this chicken coop, I wanted it to be open because I spent time on the interior and I want people to notice it. You can also notice that the interior is all tiled. This gives it a smooth look, but limits the ability to pose any figures or animals inside of the coop. So it would be worth noting that if you wanted to, you could switch some of these out for jumper plates or studs to actually put characters and animals on. Finally, I wanted to just touch base on the amount of life I put into this. When you look at all the different animals, you don't just see a chicken coop, you see all the animals associated with it. The birds, the squirrels, the bunnies. You see all the plant life and stuff like that. If you add any of those things to your build, it's going to look way more lively and more lived in, which is what makes a build look really eye-appealing to people when they look at it. So, if you want to do your own LEGO builds, feel free to post a comment down below with some of your own builds using these techniques. And I'd love to hear about some of your other builds. And I will be doing more of these videos in the future, mixed in with the regular reviews on the channel. So I hope you all enjoyed this video. Remember to like and subscribe to the channel because it helps us a lot. We're still a growing channel, and I'd like to see more people get to witness these building techniques and these cool builds. So by giving a like and subscribing, you're helping these videos reach the people who I want to see these amazing builds and be inspired with. Now, in this case, I would normally say, have a great day, but considering this is with a chicken coop, let's just say, find a chicken, pick it up, and all the day you'll have good luck. Have a great day.